And hello all, Mr. Callan here with you. Helping you with March 9th, multiply a binomial times a trinomial. Let's go ahead and start with this. Pause your video and come on back when you're ready. So this number 1, 2, and 3 from your worksheet are all review. First thing for number 1, we're going to go ahead and distribute. Negative 8 times negative 6 is a positive 48. Don't forget the B. Negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. Don't forget the C. Now 7C is not a part of the group. Let's go ahead and distribute negative 8 times negative 8, positive 64C, and negative 8 times positive 8B, be negative 64B. Now at some point in time, you want to go ahead and find your like terms. So I see B's, I'm going to box in all my B's. I'm going to circle all my C's. And let's go ahead now and combine those like terms. Negative 32 and 64 is 32, and 7 is going to be 39 C's. Oh, I should have written that second, because when we write things in standard form, we should look at exponents and we should look at alphabet. So 48 minus 64 is certainly going to be negative. Negative how many? It's 16. But you guys can check me on that. Last but not least, I ask myself, can I combine negative 16 and 39? And the answer is no, they are not like terms. One has a B, the other does not. For number 2, remember please that some of you are more comfortable with distributing. Others of you are more comfortable using the box method. So I'll show both ways ever so quickly. It does not matter where you put the 3x minus 9 and the 3x plus 6. I should have used a different color, but that's okay. 3 times 3 and x times x is going to be 9x squared. 3x times 6 is going to be 18x. 3x times negative 9 is negative 27x. And 6 times negative 9 is negative 54. Now again, if we had done this here, let me use a different color now. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. Remember that x times x should be rewritten as x squared. 3x times 6 is the 18x. Negative 9 times 7, negative 9 times 3x, negative 27x, negative 9 times that, negative 54. And again, where we can see our like terms in the box, we'll also see like terms in our expression for a final answer of 9x squared. Take away 9x's minus 54, and we pause and we ask, can anything be combined? Can anything be, should the 9's cancel out? And the answer is absolutely not. One's an x squared, one's an x to the first. Those are not like terms. So, ladies and gents, that is as good as it gets. 9x squared minus 9x minus 54. And a reminder, please, of what is super important. If you see a second power, it literally means something times itself. But what is the something here? Well, it's everything in the group. We need an x plus 9 times an x plus 9. And again, we can come off to the side using the box method, or simply use distribution. X times x is x squared. X times 9 is 9x. We can see that in the first row. 9 times x is 9x, and 9 times 9 is 81. We can see that in the second row. Combining some like terms to get x squared, 9x and 9x makes 18x's. Can anything combine or reduce? The answer is no. Notice, please, with the little disappearing ink, we have x to the second, we have x to the first, and while nobody writes it, this technically is an x to the 0, so we do have it in standard form as well. Pause your video if you need, go on back, rewatch what you need, and get ready for the next part. So we're going to skip the homework review, ladies and gents. We'll get it when Mr. Callan returns. Be ready to turn that in when he returns into the black trays, but we'll work on this for now. Multiplying a binomial times a, that's interesting. Where before we multiplied 1 times 2 terms, and then we multiplied 2 times 2 terms. Now we're going to multiply 2 times 1, 2, 3 terms, thus the trinomial part. Remember your vocabulary, please. Mono means 1. Bi, this is 2 binomials. But now we're going to get into a binomial times a 1, 2, 3 trinomial. That's what we're going to focus on for today. Always remembering we're not solving, we're simplifying here. You're going to have to distribute, combine your like terms. Be careful which terms are variable terms, which terms are constant terms. And of course, watch out for the degree, which is the highest exponent. All right, so pause for a second. I want you to look at these two problems. I want you to ask yourself, how are these problems similar? How are they different? Come on back when you're ready. Pause for a moment now, please. There is a whole lot they have in common. For instance, we have an x plus 7. We have an x plus 7 times a multiply. We have an x plus 7 times a multiply of a bunch of stuff. In fact, both of them have a negative 1x and a positive 4. But the biggest difference is now we have 2x squared. So notice what happens in my box. Essentially, it is one more column. Instead of a 2 by 2 box, it's going to be a 2 by 3 box. That was ugly, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. All right, now let's go ahead and start with the stuff that we know how to do. Again, some of you are comfortable with distributing. X times negative x, I like to put the ones in. That's going to be a negative 1x squared. X times 4 is going to be 4x's. Then we'll go ahead and distribute. Let me use a different color. Let's do 7 times negative x, or 7 times negative 1x, negative 7x's. 7 times 4 is going to be 28. Combining our like terms, ladies and gents, we're going to get a negative 1x squared. It is up to you whether or not you put the 1. Negative 1x squared minus 3x, because those x's will combine. We have some like terms. And then a positive 28. And before I go any further, can anything combine or reduce? No, sir, no, ma'am, for a final answer of negative or the opposite of x squared minus 3x plus 28. Now, let's go ahead and follow the same procedure. You distributor folks, you're going to be thinking about drawing these arcs. X times 2x. Excuse me, this is an x times 2x squared. Now think about this. If you multiply x times x squared, now you're going to see an x to the 3rd power. I'm going to make that a little clearer because that's such an important thing that we didn't have to worry about too much last time. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and distribute that 1x times negative 1x for a negative 1x squared. And 1x times 4 is going to give us 4x. Now we're going to distribute the 7 times each of those terms. 7 times 2x squared, 14x squareds. 7 times negative 1x, negative 7x's. And 7 times 4, 28. Now pay attention because you're going to have a series of like terms here that you're going to have to combine. But we're going to go ahead and combine those. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. I see 2x cubes. I see 14 minus 1. A little bit of disappearing ink here. Make sure you got 14 and a negative 1. That's going to lead us to positive 13x squareds. Then we're going to have some x's, but I had negative 7x's. I'm adding 4x's. I'm definitely still in the negatives here, although not as far in the negatives. Negative 3x, and then a positive 28 all by its lonesome. And I ask one more time, can anything combine or reduce? And the answer is no. So our final answer here is going to be 2x cubed plus 13x minus 3. The most important part, this is a 2 by 2 or a binomial times a binomial. However, this is going to be a 2 by 3 or a binomial times a trie. At this point, some of you are ready to take off. So if you're ready, go ahead, pause the video, start up 4 and 5, come on back, check your answers, fast forward what you got to do. Now, I would like to feel that everybody is going to be comfortable in this class, and because of that, I'm going to do both the box method and the distribution method, just for now at least, where we see we're going to multiply 4x minus 5, notice that's the 2, that's the binomial, and then negative or the opposite of x squared, I'm going to put a 1 there, a negative 2x, and a positive 2. By the way, totally up to you if you put the plus sign or not. Most of the time I will, but sometimes I don't. Now let's go ahead and distribute the 4x times each and every one of those terms. 4x times negative x, 4x times negative 1 is negative 4x times x squared. Sometimes it would be helpful to do that. Remember that x times x squared is going to be x cubed. 4x times negative 2x is going to be negative 8. X times x is going to be x squared. And 4x times 2 is going to be positive 8x. You'll see that in the topmost line. Now let's go to the bottom. Negative 5 times negative 1 is going to be 5x squared. Negative 5 times negative 2x is going to be positive 10x, and negative 5 times positive 2 is going to be negative 10. Again, you would see this positive 5x squared, 10x, and negative 10, same things in the box. I'm going to be honest that some folks, oh, it combined them all, that's too bad. Some folks actually immediately put their positive 5x squareds underneath the x squareds, and their 10x's underneath the x's, and their negative 10 would have been by itself. If you would like to do that, you are welcome to do that. I'm going to go ahead and erase that at a little bit of risk that it's going to confuse some folks, but just so you can see what I'm talking about here, now you can see that all the x squareds are right on top of each other, all the x's are right on top of each other. There's no other constant term, there's no other x to the third term. So let's go ahead and come up with our final answer, ladies and gents, by combining those like terms. Negative 4x cubed, negative 3x squared, positive 18x's, and negative 10. Check your math, check if anything can combine, and I don't think it can. Again, when you're looking at the box, pay special attention because the like terms are not always next to each other, above each other, below each other. Sometimes they're diagonal. Sometimes it's all kind of a weird order. Let us continue, please, with our distributing of the red as well as of the blue. And for those of you that need to draw a box, go ahead and draw the box. If you want, get ahead of me, pause your video, come on back, check your answer, fast forward, do what you got to do. All right, so let's start with the red first, where negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, with an x times x is x cubed. Once again, I'm not going to do this every time, but you can see where that x cubes comes from. Then we have negative 2 times negative 4, and x times x times x will give us x squared. Negative 2 times 8, and only a single x there. Totally your call if you put the 1 or not. Most times I don't, but sometimes I like to be abundantly clear. So that explains the first line of negative 6x cubed, 8x squared is positive, negative 16x, and then we get into the blue. 3 times 3 is 9x squared, 3 times negative 4 is negative 12x, and 3 times 8 is 24. And if you would like, you are welcome to put those on top or straight underneath the like terms. So negative 12x here, there's no other constant term above, so all we have is the 24. Now let's go ahead and combine our like terms. 6x cubed, 17x squared, negative 28x, positive 24. And I don't see anything that can combine or reduce for a final answer of negative 6x cubed plus 17x squared minus 28x plus 24. Now from here, folks, I'm going to ask you to jump into your practice. Continue on with that first page, please. When you're finished with the first page, you can come on back to this video and I'll start you up a little with that second for a little challenge. Okay, so this is what we would call number puzzles, where you're given some set of numbers and some rules, and you got to try to use the rules to find the missing pieces. So for instance, notice here, let me use a different color again, let me use purple and green. The sum of the two numbers is going to equal the bottom. So I'm going to put this here, I'm going to put a little plus sign. So 3 plus 5 will give us 8. But the product of two numbers is going to equal the top. So I'm going to put a little times here, and 3 times 5 is going to give us 15. So you can use those rules now to find the rest of the order. So take the problem right below that number 4. I'm looking at number 4, ladies and gents. Let's talk 4, let's talk 8, and then let's do a few more of those. So sometimes people like to multiply better. So let's go ahead and multiply. Negative 3 times negative 6. Positive 18. You don't have to put the plus, but you may if you want. And then let's add these. Now, negative 3 and a negative 6, some of you do well thinking about number lines. Some of you do well thinking about plus minuses, going back to 7th grade with how we first drew those out. So negative 3, negative 6, I'm seeing negative 9. I don't know about you. But look at the problem right below, number 8. This is really interesting. It doesn't actually give us the side number. It does say, hey, 3 times something is going to be 12. Oh, snap. Well, that 3 times something, that's going to have to be 4. 3 times 4 is 12, and now that we know the two side numbers, we can come up with the sum. 3 and 4 is going to make 7. So those will fill it out. Now, if you want to, pause, think about number 12, 16, 20, and come on back when you're ready. Again, we have 6 times something that we need to make negative 18. Well, that's going to be a negative 3. Now, be careful with this, because you're supposed to add together 6 and not a 3. That's a 6 and a negative 3. So go 6 up, then negative 3 means we lose money. Where are we now? We're still in the positives, but we're closer to 0. Now this is where things really get challenging. We need to find two numbers that when multiplied will give us 6, and when adding together will give us 5. This one's not so bad. Most of you can come up with, hey, Mr. Callan, guess what? 3 times 2 is 6. 3 plus 2 equals 5. What about the bottom one? So number 20 I'm looking at. Number 20. The product is going to be 14, and the sum is going to be negative 9. Now let me think about all the numbers that we could multiply to get 14. 1 times 14, 2 times 7. But I got bad news for you guys. 1 plus 14 is 15. 2 plus 7 is 9, not negative 9. Oh, snap. Well, here's something else we can know about our factors. We could have also multiplied the opposite of a negative. And since you guys notice this guy right here, negative 2 plus negative 7 will give you a negative 9. Ding, 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 ding. So final answer is here in either order. If you have negative 2 times negative 7, that will give you positive 14. Negative 2 plus 7 will give you negative 9. All right, folks, that's all I got for today. So I would encourage you to finish up the rest of that page. In a moment, your guest teacher is going to give you an exit ticket. So we're going to see how you do with a 2 by 2 and then a binomial times a trinomial. Take your time, do well, let's grow. I'll catch you guys later. See you.